I love Wallace and Gromit. These little clay goobers have been a staple of my childhood as well as to my age now, and their films, and shorts, have been charming me, this island, and the world since 1989. But nothing in this world is perfect, and as hard as it is for me to admit it, these films aren't either. But no film is. However, some of them are slightly more perfect than others, so I'm gonna rank them. This ranking is more so based on how much I like the films rather than their quality. Although it is obvious that 9 times out of 10 I'm going to like a film more if it's better. Also, I'll use this border around any time I use footage for copyright and obviously spoilers, but if you haven't seen these films already, you're doing yourself a disservice. So without further ado, I'm Sailor Ghost, I'll be your host as I rank the Wallace and Gromit films and shorts. Like the saying goes, the first is the worst, as it is for a lot of projects. While A Grand Day Out might be technically the worst film, well, short, like many of the entries, hell, it's only even 30 minutes long, about 10 minutes shorter than the other shorts, it's not bad by any means. While the animation can be a bit wonky, and Wallace's face isn't yet what we will know it to be, there's still that standard Wallace and Gromit charm beaming through it. This is also what I'd argue to be the most impressive film, as nearly all of it was done by series creator Nick Park by himself before Aardman helped finish it. And you have to give it credit for being what started this beloved claymation franchise, being the first time we see Wallace, Gromit, and that earworm theme that I'm not even going to test my luck by playing a lick of it. If the first is the worst, then that means the third is the one with the hairy chest. Or woolly chest in this case. A close shave is a big improvement from A Grand Day Out technicality speaking wise. The models are more refined, the animation is smoother, and we finally see our second ever human character in the first of many Wallace love interests, Wendelene, which her name is a reference to the window cleaning product Wendelene. That is because this is also the first time we see Wallace and Gromit take up having a business, a window cleaning one. This is also the true start of the Wallace and Gromit cinematic universe with the introduction of Shaun the Sheep, who is sort of the main driver of the plot, as the evil robot dog called Preston, as a nod to Nick Park's hometown, wants to use a machine Wallace invented for his own evil doings, which will become a trend in these upcoming films, you'll notice. This film is also technically impressive, having a high-speed aerial chase, much like a film, later on this list, as well as being the first flying sequence in this series. It's also super funny that Wendelene not liking cheese is a genuine turn-off for Wallace. So why is this only at number 6 if it's so good? Well, it's simply just the bar is set pretty high, and it's a super close call between this and... To be honest, this film should probably be behind A Close Shave, but I just kind of love how humorously dark it is randomly. Like, the opening scene is just a guy being beaten to death. This is the second time on this list we see these guys owning a business. This time, they've turned their whole house into a bakery. While Wallace is becoming a baker, there's a killer on the loose killing bakers, and Wallace's sick mind can only think of how this makes it easier for him to get into the market. Absolute sociopath. That killer on the loose is later revealed to be Paella, who is Wallace's third love interest. The fourth, if you count cheese. While Wallace is often dumb in the franchise despite being a genius inventor, I feel like him believing Gromit bit Paella is just a new low for him. But the film makes up for that with a Batman reference.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
And also the fact we hear Paella brutally get eaten alive by alligators. I also love the absurdity of nuns with kittens being like Gromit can't just throw the bomb out the window. It's not just nuns. It's not just kittens. No, it has to be nuns with kittens. And I love that. And Gromit deciding throwing the bomb into Yorkshire is the best call is the cherry on top. And speaking of Yorkshire... Feathers, no! Vengeance Most Foul is Wallace and Gromit's first sequel and first film after a 16-year-long break from the franchise, where we see the return of a villain, Feathers McGraw, as he uses Wallace's own invention for his own nefarious purpose. This time along, Wallace has made a little robot helper gnome called Norbot. You see this guy right here? I love him. I love this little goober. I mean, how could you not love a guy with this little face? This film, also this is the second true film in the series, probably takes the biggest leaps in logic that any film in the series does. Like Wallace or Gromit never discovering that there's a diamond in the teapot, or that the police never checked the bag to make sure the diamond was in there. But even with that, it's just so fun. I love feathers, but I'll get on that more soon. I love Norbert, and I love the climax. The series might have started by literally going to the moon and a grand day out, but that didn't feel as climatic as the ending of Vengeance. I also want to say that Ben Whitehead does an amazing job as Wallace, after stepping in for the legend Peter Sallis after he passed away. I'm glad Whitehead never feels wrong, and you could tell me the VA never changed, and I wouldn't even question it.
Good grief, it's you! Good grief, it's you!
Overall, a great turn to form for the franchise, and I hope it paves the way for a new era for these two. The Wrong Trousers is the best one. The Wrong Trousers isn't my favourite, obviously, that's why it's at number 2, but it's not too far off from being so, and it is the best. In this film, Wallace is renting out his room to a penguin named Feathers McGraw, while an evil chicken is on the loose who uses Wallace's own invention for his own nefarious purpose. This time around, the chicken is using the Techno Trousers to steal a diamond from a museum, and later the chicken is revealed to actually be Feathers McGraw in the plot twist of the century, just behind singing Killing Justin Timberlake's grandma. I said I'll talk about how much I love Feathers before, and now is that time, as I genuinely think Feathers is peak character design. He has no facial expressions, no speech, yet he can get everything he's thinking through simple head tilts. He looks both like a cute little cuddly penguin, but also if pure malice was formed into a character. Wrong Trousers is also a surprisingly speechless film, as Gromit is much more of a main character than Wallace is, and Wallace is the only character here who can or does speak. Yet it never feels empty. You read all the character and personality you need from Feathers and Gromit's body language. Going from A Grand Day Out to this is the biggest jump in quality I've ever seen from a first to second thing. As always, Wallace is dumb, but he's not overly stupid. He's just incapable. And you know the climax of The Wrong Trousers is iconic with that exhilarating chase on the model train set. Gromit's character also gets refined into what it is today as sort of the no-nonsense straight man balancing out Wallace's eccentric, being wacky. It's also the start of Wallace's morning routine in the series, being lifted out from bed into the dining room table. The best way I can describe it is, if A Grand Day Out was a pilot for Wallace and Gromit, this is episode 1. And not just a normal episode 1, like Gravity Falls is episode 1. Also, Feathers straight up just pulling a normal gun on Gromit is one of the funniest things ever. And to come full circle, the first was the worst, the third was the one with the woolly chest, and the second is the best. But it's not my favourite, because for my favourite, there was no other choice for me. This is one of my favourite films of all time. Top 20, of course it was going to top the list here. I truly believe this, Paranorman, and Alien, one of those things isn't like the others, set me off to be a fan of horror now. Curse of the Were-Rabbit also put me on the path to being a lifelong Wallace and Gromit fan. So, in Curse, the town's upcoming vegetable growing contest is happening, where Wallace and Gromit are running a pest control business. These two are like the most employed people ever just after Hermes. To try and stop rabbits from eating the vegetables of the townsfolk, and to stop Wallace eating so much cheese, they try and hook up Wallace and the rabbit to whatever this is, which, to its credit, does succeed in making Wallace and the rabbit not want to eat the cheese and the vegetables. But it does turn Wallace into a giant hawking rabbit. And this film really does have it all. A climactic, dramatic aerial chase scene, a dramatic underground chase scene, a villain who wants to murder the protagonist. Rabbits. I haven't talked about the humour in these films much besides The Nuns with Kittens and Feather's Gun, but they all have top-notch humour, and this film shows too. My personal favourite joke being the plain Wallace and Philip, this dog's called Philip by the way, runs out of coins, so they just calmly stop trying to kill each other to put the coins back in, and then when they do, they just go back to trying to kill each other. Perfect. As well as the iconic A Bullet scene. It's super impressive how well they were able to animate the underground chase scene because, well, this is stop motion. Every single grain of dirt is a thing that needs to hold its place and be photographed. Unfortunately, we don't get to add a number to the villain uses Wallace's own invention for their own nefarious purpose counter, but we can add to Wallace's growing number of love interests with Lady Torrington. Ralph Fiennes also gives a great performance as the villain, being Victor Quatermain. He's ever so goofy and funny while also being snivellingly evil. Everything about this film is just peak Wallace and Gromit. I'm glad the series was able to get as big and popular as it is because it definitely deserves it, and Curse of the Were-Rabbit shows why. So, with that done, that's the ranking. Next video is on Bayformers, so I'll see you there when I get around to it. So, see ya.